when we grew up, we lived down the reserve on the riverbank, and that was our main water supply. We had to go down to the river to carry our water back in buckets, and we do all our washing also. If there wasn't any water in the river, we then had to carry all our washing from the reserve to the bore, with the bore supply. Sometimes the river used to be very low, but when the floods came down, we'd have plenty of water, and we'd have it for a long while. And then suddenly, I remember when we were kids, when the floods would come down, we'd go and meet the flood. And people like old Granny Emily, a lady who couldn't even walk, but she was in the river when it came down and she could swim. And they'd swim and they'd put all the big nets across the river, and that's how they caught a lot of fish when the floodwaters were coming down.
Yeah.
And as kids we used to see the water coming down like that, flow down. And then as the years changed, the floods became less and less, not as big because of all the dams and everything that were built up in Queensland where we get all our water from. The dams were built up there for irrigation and things like the cotton and other farming. And recently, over the last couple of years, actually, it's been the most flood we've ever had. And it's been because all the water that was kept in Queensland had to be released. The water most definitely had to be released for us to get it all. And they only released it because it was a danger to their communities, to the people around them. And that's when the water was released. Other than that, at times when we needed water in our river, they would hold all this water in storage up there, especially in St George. Their river would be, and they've got a really wide river and they've got a deep river, but they kept all their water. And the only time the gates were opened is when it was endangered their lives and everything like that. Yeah, I remember about the river where all our little animals came to life, like all the water hens and all the other things concerned with the river. And I remember being in Wilcannia once, and all the people down in Wilcannia, they were so happy to see all the water life there, because the flood came down and they had a really good flood that year. Yeah, so our water to us growing up as kids was really, it was vital that we had the water. That we had no other supply.
And what about the kids here today? Do they have a similar relationship with the river? Or?
They go boogly fishing, prey fishing, and they go fishing for fish. They swim a lot when the water's down, when they're allowed to. Yeah, so no, our relationship to the river was completely different to the relationships of what these kids have today. They've got a choice, see. We didn't have a choice. Yeah. And I remember out at Wollmaringal, we used to always go to Wollmaringal for school holidays. And a lot of times we went to Wheel, there was no water in the river. So what the old men had to do was to dig a deep well in the riverbed, and then we'd put a bucket down to get out the water. And that's the way we used that water for like washing, cooking, drinking, and have a bath in. Yeah, so
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's fantastic.
Okay.